One of the more emotional moments of the DNC this year was the story of Captain Kahn, spoken by his father so eloquently, and it touched so many people. Apparently not Donald Trump, because the next day he made some pretty inflammatory and insulting comments about the family. One of the people who didn't want to sit on the sidelines and not comment on this was our very own J.R. Martinez, who wrote a public letter that went viral. So I would love to hear from you. What prompted you to write that, and what kind of response you got?
It was about having compassion, and it was just having that human, understanding of like, there's just certain things you don't touch, man. You just don't touch. Like it's, and then the following day, as you touched on, he was like, oh, well, they attacked me, and you see the family up there attacking me. And it's like, that's what you call an attack. You are campaigning to be the president of the United States of America, and you're all sensitive about him saying to you, holding up the Constitution saying, if you haven't read this, you can borrow my copy. That's what you feel as an
that's
attack?
what he focused in on? I mean, I was in the room. Everyone was in tears.
I tell you this, and see, so pretty much to your question, and I'm sorry, but like, to your question, what ultimately it motivated me to write this was like, okay, this was another thing. This was like the cherry on top. He already had insulted Senator McCain, talking about, I'm sure all of you are aware now of, Senator McCain, he's only a hero because he was captured. And I don't like people that were captured. Bullshit. Like, that's, like, regardless of what side of the fence that you're on in regards to Senator McCain's politics, you cannot touch that man's service. You cannot touch the fact that that man was tortured. He could have easily said so much and given up so much, and he did not. He in some ways made almost an ultimate sacrifice by sacrificing pain in his body and
his arm
and his legs. Like I didn't endure that. Like, and this man was like, I'm not going to give it up. So he attacked that. And then he said to the Kahn family, and then he went on and said to this Purple Heart recipient that at a rally, this Purple Heart recipient gave him his Purple Heart. Like, and it's like, hey, that's cool. If that's what you feel, man, that's your right. You're entitled to do that. But it was his comments after that, his comments of like receiving it and saying, I've always wanted a Purple Heart. This was a much easier way to get one.
That's let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something.
Who says that?
First and foremost, nobody in the military wants a Purple Heart. That is not the award you want to get. You want to get like all these other like accolades, but you do not want a Purple Heart because that means you've been wounded in combat.
Okay.
Nobody wants to be wounded. Nobody's like, I'm trying
to
So
I want him to have a Purple Heart too. I want him to earn it though. I want him to get it the right way.
Yeah. I've always wanted to have the experience of being wounded in combat without going into combat.
So what happened is when I wrote this, there was a lot of support, and then there was obviously the backlash as well.
Of course.
And it surprised me because one of the backlashes, like I called Dalton, Georgia, my hometown. Like I moved there my senior year, it just felt right. Like the way that they embraced me when I came home after my injury, the way that they supported my mother during the 3 months I was initially in ICU. Like, I mean, it was amazing, the outpour of love and support. And I'm the hometown hero. I can go back right now and I can walk down the strip and everything will stop. Like that's what I am to that community. But I posted the story, the letter to Trump, and just telling him like, listen, man, like there's certain things you just don't touch. He tried to obviously come out and say that, well, I've sacrificed a lot. I think I've created jobs. And it's like, you don't have the decency to understand that your sacrifices are nowhere near the sacrifices of this family.
Right.
You don't even understand that this family, the reason they're coming out and saying this is because you're attacking Muslims by saying all Muslims are this. And here you have this amazing patriotic example of this Muslim family that are now a Gold Star family. They've made the ultimate sacrifice, and you're trying to put on par your $1 billion sacrifice on par with theirs.
Well, and it's not a sacrifice if it's a business and you're making money off of it. But that's what I'm saying. Like
to him, it's a sacrifice, and he's trying to put that on the same level. And it's like you can't. That doesn't belong on the same scale.
And let's not forget that he insulted the mother by saying that she was quiet because she was a submissive Muslim woman.
I'm gonna tell you
probably
something.
Wasn't allowed to talk.
My mother, if my mother was here right now, and you asked her about the day that she got the phone call and when she saw her son for the first time. My mother she wouldn't be able to spill a word out.
Absolutely.
Like she'd be so quiet. She'd be so like, I'm not going to sit there and look at that mother that's up and be like, oh, well, see, look, the husband, controls her. So needless to say, like when I posted it, there was a gentleman from my hometown and he said, if you just went back to where you came from, we wouldn't have to deal with y'all.
Okay. Which, when he said that to you, what did he mean? El Salvador?
Yeah, El Salvador.
Oh, okay.
Like Latino.
But where did you really come from?
So I wrote this piece that inspired me. The gentleman's name is Larry. And so I wrote, instead of commenting to him on directly, because I feel like, what was that going to do? I felt that I needed to write a follow-up letter to all the Larrys out there, because as we know, there's a lot of Larrys out there that support
And
this.
they're on Facebook.
Absolutely, they're on social
Not
media,
on my feed.
and they're not showing their faces.
Right.
And I wrote a Dear Larry letter, and because he was just like, I said, okay, I opened the letter by saying, like, you want me to go back to where I came from? Well, guess what, bro? Like, I'm going back to your hometown where you live. Like, we're from the same place. Like, where do you want me to go? Oh, you're talking about El Salvador? Well, come on, man, that's a different conversation. You know why my mother left in the early 80s? Because there was a civil war that was, let's be honest, that was funded by the U.S.
Right.
I mean, let's be
But
real.
you know what?
Let's not be hypocrites here, and like there's a double standard of where, you know, we're gonna sit here and say, like, I mean, as we discussed, you're gonna have different demographics. Let's talk about Latinos. They're gonna come and give so much to this country, but then it's like, well, we don't want them to be here. We're gonna send them back. And it's like, but you can benefit from our labor. You can benefit from what we bring to the table, but then you don't want us here. Like, how does that work?
That's what Donald Trump brings out,
Absolutely.
or has brought out, and that he's awakened this, and I won't say sleeping giant, but this hiding giant, and that you got backlash for defending empathy and honor. And that is the epitome of what this campaign has represented in this country for us. Is, as people of color, you always are always in the position of having to defend yourself. And I think it's...
And he not only brought it out, but he's normalized it.
Yeah.
And last time I remember anything being like this was in the 90s during Prop 187, the granddaddy of all these really bad, evil anti-immigrant laws, and it was the same rhetoric. And in California, it changed the face of the state, and hopefully, it'll do the same thing nationally.